welcome to the Heroes of Aeowe podcast. I am Neuron. I will be moderating this short interview session, as it were. So, the first question that needs to be answered is, who are you, and what are you? All right. Sanguine, tell us about Howie.
All right, so Howie is a water genasi. She's a warlock genie with the patron. It's a water genie, as you might have guessed. So I know some people play this race differently, but I'm playing her as a creature that's like made of water. You could picture it kind of like Jello, that's somewhat see-through if you want, but obviously like Jello, she's not Jello, but think of it like a weird water person thing, right?
So, like the water horse in Frozen 2?
Correct. But, she'll walk around, she'll leave slight water prints. That's going to be a fun part, because if we're doing stealth checks and stuff, and she rolls low, maybe she'll leave behind some evidence that she's been there by accident, But very fun. I came up with the name because I knew I wanted a character named Howie. I just didn't know when I would make a character. And I fell in love with the name and the character idea. And the name Howie did get inspired by a pizza chain that is not sponsored. But I just thought that would be fun. Her backstory, the DM and I created to make sure it fit to the setting. So she was adopted by human parents, raised by them, and then eventually the big bad guys that you'll learn about in the podcast, they, for whatever reason, that will not be revealed at this time due to spoilers, took her, the family, and they became separated. But now Howie's out, and her goal is to eventually reunite with her parents. I'm playing her as someone who has a higher intelligence, lower wisdom, so less common sense, isolated, raised.
Yeah, my impression of Howie has been that she is the most normal of everybody, with the exception of the fact that she's just made out of water.
Yeah, she's definitely the most normal in the group. She's definitely, of course, the water thing, but in terms of personality, out of everyone you'd want to babysit your kids in the party, she's definitely the top person, I think. Okay, Miran, tell us about Aaron, because he's definitely probably the goofball of the group. I love him. He's very entertaining.
Thank you. Yeah, so Aaron, surname is Cloudspark. That's primarily because he was found in a basin that had a picture of a cloud with a lightning bolt coming out of it. So the guy he calls grandfather named him Cloudspark. The guy he calls grandfather is not his real grandfather, because grandfather was a gnome. And Aaron is definitely not a gnome. Aaron, if I remember correctly, he's a little over 5 feet tall, has green hair, doesn't really take anything terribly seriously. After grandfather passed away, he went on a journey, an aimless journey, and eventually ended up with the Knowledge Seekers, who are a religious sect that hasn't really come up in the show yet. But he spent some time with them, learned how to do some martial arts, and then they recruited him into an expedition. And this expedition was supposed to find some sort of artifact that was deep in contested territory, and it did not go very well. They got ambushed. Aaron managed to get everybody but himself out, but the people who ambushed them apparently had pity on him after he fell unconscious and took him to a medicine woman of sorts that was nearby. And it was there that he discovered some of his Eladrin abilities. While he was there, helped protect the medicine woman from some rampaging monsters. So he's mostly on a journey of self-discovery at this point.
That's pretty cool. And does he know what race he is, or is he clueless?
No, he does not. And there's a couple other little things about him that I didn't mention because they're kind of spoilery.
Oh, that's
But
fine.
yeah,
I love it.
but yeah, he's a level 1 monk, uh, second level druid, circle of so circle of dreams. So that allows him to heal without having to burn any of his resources. So he can wild shape, and he can give a little bit of a heal without having to burn a spell slot to do it. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's pretty awesome. And I look forward to hearing more about Aaron and maybe see him get mad at some more birds.
yeah. Anyway, so that's great. Okay. All right, Danny, you ready to tell us about Yisong?
Yeah, so I play Yisang, a human blade singer slash artificer, and the artificer side came from her mom, who made her a set of magical cloak, or should I say clothing, which is more modern than the rest of the party, and her father is a calligrapher blade singer. Growing up, Yisang is very boyish, and she's going on this journey right now with the rest of the party in order to become a better calligrapher, to one day maybe take over her father's business. And Yisang carries a hand mirror with her that has her brother who can speak to her. However, this brother died of childbirth when he was born. Only I can see my brother. She's going on this journey to not only become a better calligrapher, but also to get closer to God, as she's hoping to become more in tune with her faith.
You kind of hinted on what we're probably going to talk a little bit about next is what the podcast is about. So that's probably a good as good a segue as any. So
Well, I believe that this podcast is a podcast where not only do we play D&D, but we also glorify God in playing D&D, because we want to reach out to the Christian D&D player community.
yeah, so I guess actually the question, why are we making a podcast, should probably start, because that's sort of where everything started, right?
Right. So, some of us were talking in Discord one day, and we said, we like playing D&D and watching these content creators, but a lot of it isn't something that's family friendly, So if you want to listen to it around your kids, they might have inappropriate topics, like things you wouldn't want to play in front of grandma, daughters, whatever. And additionally, like a lot of us in the server, regardless of what kind of faith walk each of us are in, we all thought to ourselves, we would like a podcast that's more family friendly, Christian friendly. And I offered, hey, if you guys are serious, I'll help edit the podcast episodes. And we started a group, met some people. We're all very interesting people. And
it took a while for us to sort of get our bearings on when would be an appropriate time to meet, what type of game we wanted to play, and so forth and so on. So as we're recording this right now, it's like we decided we needed to have an introductory episode. So that's what we're recording now. What made us decide to make a podcast was to create something that we ourselves would want, I think. Am I phrasing that correctly?
Oh yeah, it's something we would have fun doing too. Like I
Yeah.
used to be a radio DJ a long time ago. I'd edit small clips and it was a lot of fun for me. And granted that was a while ago, it was a lot of fun. And this has been a good opportunity for me to get back into that hobby of editing and also playing a game I like.
Yeah, and I have a little bit of amateur experience in a lot of various things. So, plus I'm a substitute teacher, so I'm used to subbing in where things needed to be filled in. So that was just sort of a pretty good fit there. So
For me, I recently got into D&D like 3 years ago, but now looking forward, I write a lot of D&D content in my spare time just for fun. So I also thought that it's like a blessing that I meet everyone here, and I'm thankful for everyone for giving me this opportunity to be one of the players on the podcast.
absolutely. And then some people who are not here have been helping us out as well. We will mention them in the credits, including our DM, who is not in this particular session. We're probably going to create an episode specifically for her to tell us more about our setting. But just to give a brief synopsis, it's what's referred to as a homebrew world where various fantasy races exist, but not necessarily in the same context as they do in other settings. And so a lot of this allows for reinterpreting some of the different races and creatures and various things that show up in D&D. The particular reason we chose to go with Aeowe, and mostly because we didn't want to step on Wizards of the Coast's toes by trying to use Forgotten Realms or Everon or something that had a lot of lore and stuff already, out there that we might contradict or, because I don't think any of us are that familiar with that setting. The other reason being is that a lot of those settings use things that aren't necessarily well received in a lot of Christian circles. Things like demons and devils and undead and things of that nature. So in order to help with the family friendliness, we used a setting that does not include the things that are particularly taboo or scary or excessively violent or anything of that nature. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So that kind of wraps up our little interview session, just to give everybody a brief preview of what this podcast is about and what we do in it and who we are playing. So be sure to tune in to episode 1, which should be releasing at the same time as this bonus episode. Thank you for listening to Heroes of Aeowe. Dungeon Mastery by Anneli Defenif. Music provided by Tim Galvin. Social media support by Assassin King 007 on Discord.